The restaurant buzzed with the soft clinking of glasses and the murmur of expensive conversations when the door opened and a tall man in a tailored suit stepped inside. Every waiter straightened instantly. Whispers followed him like wind through leaves. That's Adrian Cole, the billionaire investor. He moved with confidence, cold eyes scanning the room, as if everything around him existed for his convenience. At the corner of the room stood Emily, a waitress working her third shift of the day. She carried herself with quiet grace, her apron slightly worn, her hair tied back neatly. When she reached his table, she greeted politely. "Good evening, sir. May I take your order?" He didn't look up, tapping at his phone. "I'll have the chef's special, and black coffee." She wrote it down carefully and said softly, "Would you like sugar or—" He cut her off sharply. "Just bring the coffee." She froze, blinking, trying to hold her composure. "Yes, sir," when she returned later, placing the cup down. Carefully, his phone buzzed and hot coffee spilled slightly onto his sleeve. He jumped back furious. "What is wrong with you?" she gasped, grabbing a napkin. "I'm so sorry, sir. It was an accident." He stood brushing off his arm, glaring at her. "That's what happens when people like you don't pay attention." The restaurant fell silent. The manager hurried over, apologizing profusely. Adrian's tone stayed cold. "Fire her. I don't tolerate incompetence." Emily's chest tightened, her lips parting in disbelief. "Sir, please, I need this job." He didn't even look at her. "Just leave before I make a call." She stared at him for a moment, then walked away, her heart breaking, her pride still intact. Hours later, as rain fell over the glass towers downtown, Adrian stepped into his corporate office, ready for a late-night meeting with his new business partner. His secretary greeted him nervously. "Sir, your new associate has arrived." He straightened his tie, forcing the frustration from earlier out of his head. "Good, let's get this over with." The door opened and in walked the same girl from the restaurant, dressed in a sharp suit, her eyes calm, her voice steady. "Hello, Mr. Cole. My father sends his regards. I'm Emily Carter, your new overseeing executive." Adrian's hand froze mid-air, his confident posture faltering. For the first time that day, the same waitress he had fired hours ago now stood in front of him, poised, composed, and terrifyingly in control. Emily Carter, the daughter of Richard Carter, the founder and majority shareholder of the very company Adrian ran. She didn't look angry. She didn't even look smug, just calm in a way that made his stomach twist. He forced a strained smile. "Emily, we've met before, haven't we?" She tilted her head politely. "Yes, we have, though I believe you didn't catch my name earlier." His throat tightened slightly about that. "I think there might have been a misunderstanding." She smiled faintly. "Oh, there was a misunderstanding, Mr. Cole, but not the one you think." He frowned, uncertain where this was going, her voice steady and professional. "My father sent me to evaluate leadership conduct after the complaints about management behavior towards staff. I just didn't expect to experience it personally." She slid a folder across his desk containing his own signed termination form for the waitress earlier that day. Adrian's heart sank, his face draining of color. "You were testing me?" She nodded calmly. "No, I was working. You see, I've spent the past 2 months learning what this company looks like from the ground up. I wanted to know how employees are treated, especially by those in power." She paused, studying him, and today I learned a lot. He tried to recover his composure. "Miss Carter, I was under a great deal of stress. That isn't how I normally behave." She raised an eyebrow. "You mean you only treat people kindly when they can benefit you?" His jaw tightened. He wanted to argue, but couldn't find the words. She continued softly. "I served tables for weeks. Not one person knew who I was. Some treated me like family, others like furniture. But you, Mr. Cole, you didn't see a person at all. You saw a mistake." Silence filled the room, heavy and sharp. Adrian finally muttered, "I shouldn't have said those things." She folded her arms. "No, you shouldn't have, but the good thing about mistakes is they show who we really are." He swallowed hard, feeling the sting of her calm truth. For a long moment, neither of them moved. The silence in the office said everything. Adrian couldn't. He had faced cutthroat negotiations, hostile takeovers, and lawsuits without blinking, but standing in front of Emily Carter, the woman he had dismissed without a shred of respect, he finally felt exposed. The arrogance that once protected him felt heavy, now useless. Emily's voice was steady when she finally spoke. "My father believes in second chances, but I believe second chances only matter if they hurt enough to change you." She walked to the window, looking out at the glittering skyline. "Tell me, Mr. Cole, who are you when no one's watching?" He hesitated, searching for words that didn't sound hollow, then whispered, "Someone I don't like very much anymore." She turned back to him, her eyes softer than before. "Maybe. That's a start." She placed a single paper on his desk. It wasn't a dismissal, it was a reassignment letter. "Effective immediately, you'll spend the next 60 days working with the operations team, shadowing every role you think is beneath you, starting with the customer service floor." Adrian stared at the paper as if it were foreign. "You're serious?" She nodded completely. "This company doesn't need a man who only knows how to lead from the top. It needs one who remembers what it's like at the bottom." He rubbed his temple quietly. "You could have ended my career today, why didn't you?" She studied him for a moment before replying. "Because firing you would have been easy, but letting you face the same struggle you mocked, that's how people learn." He swallowed hard, feeling both humbled and ashamed. "You're tougher than I remembered," he said. Finally, she smiled faintly. "Maybe you just never looked close enough before." She walked toward the door, pausing long enough to add, "Tomorrow, 8 A. Gam sharp, don't be late." And Mr. Cole, she glanced over her shoulder. "Try not to fire anyone before lunch." He managed a small, reluctant smile. "I'll try." She nodded. "Good, because I'll be watching." The next morning, the sound of chatter filled the lower floor of the building where employees handled complaints and customer requests. Adrian walked in, wearing a plain badge that read Staff Trainee. The same people who once avoided his gaze now barely looked at him as he took a seat beside a tired call center worker. She handed him a headset without a word. "Welcome to the real world." He nodded quietly, his suit traded for a company polo. His pride traded for silence. Hours passed. He listened to customers complain about late shipments and billing. Hera's things he had once dismissed as minor now felt like cracks in a system he had never truly seen by noon. He was answering calls himself, apologizing, taking notes and hearing voices soften when he actually listened. For the first time he understood what Emily meant about serving before leading. When she walked in later to check on him, he didn't even notice at first, too focused on helping an older woman find her refund. She stood behind him, arms folded, watching the billionaire who had once barked orders now speaking with patience. When he hung up, she said quietly, "You're not terrible at this." He turned startled, then smiled. "Guess I had a good teacher." She smirked. "Don't flatter me yet, you still have 59 days left." He nodded. "But maybe for once I'm not counting." Weeks passed and the office began to change, so did he. He started eating lunch with the staff, asking questions, fixing problems himself, instead of waiting for others by the time Emily called him back to her office 2 months later. He was different, quieter, more grounded when she asked. "So what did you learn?" He said simply, "That leadership isn't about power, it's about presence." She studied him for a long moment before standing, offering her hand. "Welcome back, Mr. Cole." He hesitated before shaking it. "Thank you for not firing me," she smiled softly. "Thank you for proving I didn't have to." As he turned to leave, she called out one last thing. "Next time you're in a restaurant, try thanking your waitress." First, he laughed gently. "I will." He paused at the door, glancing back. "And if she spills coffee, I'll probably tip double this time." She laughed, shaking her head as he walked out, knowing she had just witnessed something rare, a man powerful enough to change and humble enough to mean it. If this story made you smile, share it with someone who needs a reminder that accidents can turn into beautiful beginnings.